Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ari Temkin, and it's Monday, 12 o'clock. Means it's time for Showtime with Ari Temkin, streaming to you every single day right here at noon Central on Phantom, where we are putting you, the center of the Dallas sports discussion. Plenty of ways to get in touch with us through any of the platforms in which we are broadcasting on. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Get in touch with us that way. Reminder, this show is the most interactive Cowboys show out there. So we are interacting with you every single day, bringing you into the fold on what we're doing and having a discussion. And that's what we seek to do each and every day. And there we go. Boom. There's my volume. So the quickest ways to get in touch with us are through the Phantom YouTube page or the Phantom Facebook page. That's the best way to have your voice heard. But a shout out to all of our partners broadcasting across multiple pages and platforms. So shout out to you. Matt S. on YouTube says, "Sup, Ari?" Matt S., how are you? On Facebook at facebook.com/watchphantom. Keith Stone says, "Yo, Ari shared. Sorry I missed Friday's show. I was in Facebook jail." Well, how'd you end up there, Keith? David Alejandre says the city of Cleveland is cleaning house. That's right. It looks like both the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Cavaliers head coach are both out. Real quick, sorry, just trying to hit the share button. Dakota Stiegel says, "Any Redskins, fellas? They are a dark horse, it would seem." Interesting. All right, so everybody hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. Trying to implement some new technologies onto this show, and as you do so, you sort of lose some of the old things that you're reliant upon, but that's where we are. Okay, so wherever you're watching this, thank you for watching this. I'll try to get to your comments as quickly as I possibly can. Kerry Teagle says, "I was hoping it was Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan getting fired and not not Hugh Jackson." Neil Favre in the house. Ninja Nuts says it was the Giants. Still a lot of football to play as far as the Redskins beating up on the Giants. On the Dallas Cowboys America's team page, shout out to all you watching across the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. The comments coming in there as well. Steve Eason says, "What's up?" Curtis Stark says, "What's up? Happy Monday to you as well." All right. Again, keep those comments coming. I will get to them as quickly as I possibly can. Chris Bennett says, "Rock chalk, hell yeah." The Jayhawks winning their first Big 12 game in October in 38 tries. So that's 10 years. Wow. Patrick Kahn in the house. What up, Patrick Kahn? All right, so you can see the photo here, right over there, of Garrett and Brad Paisley. I had to look down at my screen to make sure that that's what it was. So we can start off there. The big news around the Dallas Cowboys today is that people are criticizing their head coach, Jason Garrett, for going to the World Series during the bye week. Maybe a feeling like he should have been home, studying, looking at film, breaking down film, constant, endless stream of working, I guess is what they thought would be better optics for it. Let's cut to the chase. Jason Garrett going to the World Series isn't exactly a problem. He had a day off. He took the day off. I'm fine with anybody doing whatever they want during their day off, during their time off. The issue is the optics of it. And it's not just that he did what he wanted to do on his day off. It's that he went to a World Series game somewhere he knew he'd be very visible, which would be not great for fans to see. I know Jimmy Johnson has called him out. I know other people have called him out. But it doesn't even need that. It's just the pure optics of Cowboys fans that are sick and tired of Jason Garrett's BS, giving another reason for them to be sick and tired of Jason Garrett's BS. Does he need to be studying film endlessly, in his basement, constantly studying film and trying to get the latest insight into what his team could have next Monday night against Tennessee? No, absolutely not. But he also probably shouldn't beat a World Series game when his team is 3-4 and everybody's watching and they can see that he's not there and everybody doesn't like him to begin with. Again, This is just not good optics. And so I think it does Jason Garrett no favors. And again, I don't think it means he's not working. I think we have 8.5 years to suggest whether he's putting in the requisite amount of work for this franchise to be successful. But at the end of the day, we want to believe that the coaches for the teams that we root for always have their team's best interests in mind. And when your team is 3-4 and your professional viability is being questioned, everybody wants Jason Garrett fired, then I do think this stuff matters. That's it. That's what I think. Neil Favre says Garrett is a clap instructor for other celebrities. Give him a break. He was showing Brad Paisley how it's done properly. They didn't, by the way, catch him on television clapping, did they? Because that would have been an embarrassment. Eric Kashani says they're just picking at everything for no reason if they care about him having a personal life. David Alejandre says just another reason to bash Mr. Clapper. Patrick Kahn says perception is reality. What do you all think about this? Jason Garrett goes to Los Angeles, goes to the World Series game, is shown on television at the World Series game. Give me a thumbs up in the emojis or in the comments. If you didn't like seeing Jason Garrett out at the World Series game, or give me the heart emoji if you say, hey, no issues at all with this. It's no big deal. He can do what he wants on his own personal time. He's got, he had the personal time to take off. It's no big deal. And look, this is not a new conversation when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. This is like Cabo all over again, right? I mean, this is a very similar circumstance. Now, the obvious difference being you're talking about a bye week prior to a playoff game. This is a bye week prior to an important stretch. You're talking about a quarterback versus a coach, but this happens this happens in sports all the time, where our favorite athletes or coaches are seen someplace else, maybe out in public during a bye week, when you could certainly make the argument that whatever they want to do during their own vacation is their own prerogative and they're fine in doing so. But I think like the certain specific context matters here. Most Cowboys fans don't want Jason Garrett to be their head coach. That's fair to say? Most Dallas Cowboys fans don't want Jason Garrett to be their head coach. So I think to that end, this is a confirmation bias. Does this mean he's not working? No, it doesn't mean he's not working at all. We have no idea. Maybe he was watching film, breaking down film on his flight back to Dallas from LA after the World Series game. Right? Like this doesn't mean that he's not working, but it just sort of goes hand in hand with, I don't like Jason Garrett. And because of that, I'm going to look for whatever reason I have to tell you why he's a bad coach. And I think there's a little bit of that happening here. But again, I also think like he has to be more knowledgeable of where he is, as far as like people are sick and tired of him. His job status remains very much in doubt. So the optics of then going to a World Series game where you're going to be shown on television because you're the head coach of America's team, for crying out loud, like this just can't look good. It just doesn't look good. It's not going to play well to the people, the vast majority of Cowboys fans, that don't like you. That's the thing, is if it's a player that people like, they're going to make excuses for why this is a non-story. But yet, if you aren't liked or beloved and you're Jason Garrett, then people will look for reasons for why this is a story and why this is legitimate. And again, I think Jason Garrett works plenty hard. I don't know how much he evolves and adapts and grows over the course of a season or over the course of multiple seasons, but that's why I don't think he's a very good head coach. But that, like, if he's, he could look at film and break down film and adjust his game plan based on what he's seeing in film, but there's no sort of evolution that we're seeing from his coaching style or coaching philosophies that we've seen over the course of the time that he's been here. All right, so let's see here. What does everybody else think? Eric Sharp says, and he gave the guys an extra day off after the Jacksonville win. Curtis Stark says, just bringing more controversy to the organization and Garrett media-wise. Tony Enriquez says, not like he skipped a practice to be there. True. Let's see here. Neil Favre says, because Garrett is elite clapper. McVay, not so much. Robert Anchetta, a.k.a. Ninja Nuts, says, I don't need him watching film. I need the coordinators doing that. JG needs to be up in their bleep to make sure they're doing their jobs. Also, Patrick Kahn says, right, Walt, that won't help the quarterback throw better. Talking about Walt Chisholm's comment from earlier. Just trying to catch up on all the comments here. Patrick Kahn says it's not newsworthy. I believe that's what Patrick Kahn said. I beg to differ. It's newsworthy from a standpoint of we've had this conversation before. Obviously, the biggest one that comes to mind is Tony Romo. Chris Bennett says the screen is frozen, only audio. It could just be on your end. It looks, at least from my end, it looks like it's still playing well. Again, so like it's hard for me to sort of make this distinction. Do I think this means he's not working? No. However, he's got to have a better idea in mind to know that like people don't like him. The vast majority of Cowboys fans want him gone. So like you can be anywhere. Probably just not at a World Series game because you're going to be filmed, it's going to be shown, and that is going to piss off Cowboys fans. And that's not to say like Jason Garrett should make decisions based on the perception of him from Cowboys fans. It's just to say that it doesn't look good at a time when most people want you gone. And Ninja Nut says the video's good, so I'll just go with him. Screw you, Chris. I'm just kidding. I love you, Chris Bennett. Keith Stone also says video is good. Eric Sharp says if you wanted to go to the game, get a box. Don't sit front row with Brad Paisley. I mean, even then, they're going to find the cameras are going to find him, and that's just again like this. It doesn't mean that he's not working. Like I have 8 years of evidence to support whether he works or doesn't work, and that's kind of one of the things that I hate about the way we analyze sports. Is like Tom Brady doesn't have to tell me he works hard. I know he works hard, right? Like I hate when athletes or coaches talk about how hard they work because the proof is in the pudding. If you don't work hard, you're not going to be in the NFL very long. If you don't work hard, you're not going to be a head coach very long. So you have to put in the time that allows you to maintain your standing wherever it is, whether it be that you're the head coach, whether it be whatever you are. So you've got to put in the time. So I'm not going to micromanage every second of every day for Jason Garrett. Again, I'll just say that he's got to be better, have a better understanding of the optics of what it's going to look like, especially as it pertains to, like, you're 3-4 and everybody wants you out. So maybe this is the week to not be going to Dodgers World Series games. Maybe it's the week, right? Like, not to say you've got to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't leave your cave. You've got to constantly be watching film, injecting film straight into your veins like it's heroin. I'm not saying that, but I'm just simply saying that you probably have to be better aware of the perception of you and that people don't like you and they're going to be criticizing you regardless of what you do, and it just doesn't look good that you are out in LA gallivanting around town while the rest of the team is seemingly working. Marty Swift says, hey, Ari, sounds crazy with all of his injuries, 2 off seasons, back surgeries, and now the torn labrum in his shoulder with the trade deadline looming and a big payout if he's franchised. How far off would trading DeMarcus Lawrence be? Kansas City could use him. His best season was a contract year. It's a great question. And we do know that DeMarcus Lawrence has had some injury issues in the past. But, I mean, I would say trading him... Man, trading him would be completely, I would say no, unless you can get a first-round pick for him, which I don't think you can because his contract is up after this season and he's getting the franchise tag. So he's basically untradeable for what you'd want from a value proposition. And then, but then the question then becomes, like, what's the long-term viability of signing DeMarcus Lawrence? I think, Lawrence has proven enough in the year and change plus, that he is he's a franchise-type pass rusher. So I mean, he's gonna get paid, and he probably should. But I think your point is well stated. There's got to be some reservations because this guy's had a lot of injuries, continues to have a lot of injuries, and do you want to be saddled with a long-term contract, paying that guy, buku bucks, in order, based on a history where he's injured a lot? And I guess I would just say, yeah, because he's that good, and it's not even like just don't even look at how many sacks does he have. Look at how many sacks the team has, because in a lot of ways, he's responsible for that number, right? Like he's going to command double teams, which then sends, the opposite defensive end, opportunities in one-on-one matchups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if the Cowboys are top 5 statistically in sacks, a big piece of that is because of DeMarcus Lawrence, regardless of how many sacks he has. And also, as Patrick Kahn says, trading DeMarcus sends a very bad message to this team. And I agree. Honestly, I would trade him to get a first-round pick back if I could. But, and I'd have to think about it in a little bit greater detail. I don't know that I would. I guess I'm just saying that off the cuff because you're asking me. But I don't think they can get a first-round pick. So, because of, his contract's up. So who's going to go out and give up a first-round pick for DeMarcus Lawrence right now when they can just have him potentially in free agency once this offseason hits? G. Garcia says, what's up with Tampa Bay's tight end? Are we in a race to get him? I will get into Connor Brate here in a moment, but first, let me go ahead and hit share because I have not done that yet. James Hudson says, not because he's a good coach. His record proves that, regular season and playoffs. Neil Favre, Garrett sucks as a head coach. Neil Favre says, fun fact, no interim coach who has taken over permanently has ever won a Super Bowl. Marone got closest last season with Jacksonville. Brandon Short says, bring back Jimmy Johnson and give him full control. Probably not going to happen. And I say probably, leaving that window ever so slightly open. Ninja Nut says, we pay Tank and Byron. Yeah. And I agree with you there. I think ultimately they're going to pay both Tank Lawrence and Byron Jones. All right, post your comments. Hit the share button. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Phantom, where we put you in the center of the Dallas sports discussion. This is your show, so it depends on your participation. So we couldn't do this show without you. Comment, hit the share button, get this thing rolling. I called him Connor Brate. Is that what happened? Man, I get these C names. Thank you to Dakota Stiegel for bringing that up. Cameron Brate, not Connor Brate. Connor Cooper Cameron. These are names I cannot get right. I get Cooper and Connor mixed up all the time. I think it's because of the Cowboys. I think what happened was at first I called him Connor Rush to make a joke, like out of the fact that nobody knew who he was. And now it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where I only, now I can't remember if it's Cooper Rush or Connor Williams or Cooper Williams or Cameron Brate or Connor Brate or Cooper Brate or whatever it is. Stevie Mack on YouTube says, Ari, what's up, bro? Cleveland got rid of their crappy coach after only 2.5 years. Of course, Garrett has an overall better record, but obviously he's a much better team than Cleveland. Yes? Are you suggesting that the Cowboys should get rid of their crappy head coach during the season? It's not going to happen, Stevie, because this team is competitive enough that they will stay in the race long enough that he won't lose his job in season. Look, Hugh Jackson is a really bad head coach. I'm not a Jason Garrett fan at all, but Jason Garrett is a considerably better head coach than Hugh Jackson, which should show you how bad of a coach Hugh Jackson truly is. He won 1 game in 2 full seasons and kept his job. The fact that he came into the season as the head coach of Cleveland after winning 1 game in 2 seasons, 2 full seasons. Win a game and then don't win a game in back-to-back seasons. 1 game with 30 losses. Yeah? 31 losses. Yeah? 15 plus 16. 31 losses. And he has, I believe I saw, the lowest winning percentage for any coach in the history of the league with over 40 games as a coach. Marvin Hargrove says, Connor Williams and Cooper. Thank you, Marvin. I know. I understand it. I'm just saying they messed me up. I know it's Connor Williams. I just get them messed up a lot. Patrick Kahn, Hugh is 0-20 on the road. Garrett Weldon, what about Hugh coming as our offensive coordinator? No! Look, everybody, please, if you don't want Jason Garrett to be here anymore, I'm with you. I'm pleading for you. They're not going to replace either of these guys in season. Maybe Scott Linehan. Maybe. But man, not with Hugh Jackson for multiple reasons, but maybe none more important than you're not going to fire a coordinator in season and then bring in a new coordinator that same season to take over. If they fire Linehan, Jason Garrett becomes their play caller. Michael Donovan says, I still think being Romo in for head coach. Tony Romo? You're talking about Michael Donovan on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. You're talking about Tony Romo to be the head coach or another Romo to be the head coach? I'm confused. If anybody watching this stream would like to help out Michael Donovan on Tony Romo's the head coach, feel free to do so in the comments wherever you are. Alex Hernandez says Lincoln Riley for OC. Lincoln Riley is not leaving as the head coach of Oklahoma to become the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. It's just not going to happen, especially because he's going to have offers from the National Football League to be a head coach in the National Football League. And Lincoln Riley for head coach is what I would say. All right, so again, do you have an issue with Jason Garrett going to the World Series game? Is the media making too much of it? Thumbs up if you think, yes, I have an issue with it. Not a good look. Or hit the heart emoji if you'd like to respond by saying, no issue at all. No problem with it whatsoever. You can do whatever it is you want on your own free time when you're off, when you have time off. The U says, what up, Ari on YouTube? What up, the U? It's all about the U. Again, just to reiterate my point on this, I don't think it means he's working any less. I just think it means he's completely oblivious to everything that's going on around this organization and this team. Like, it seems tone deaf to the state of the Cowboys and how you're viewed within that. And maybe Garrett's like, well, I don't care how it's viewed. It just seems so tone deaf. That's the thing that I hate about it. That's why I don't like it. It just seems tone deaf to the situation. You're 3-4 and everybody wants you fired, and here you are gallivanting around Los Angeles. It's just not a good look. It doesn't mean Jason Garrett's not working as hard as he should be working. It just means that he's completely oblivious to everything that's going on around him. Stevie Mack says, I want Jesse James, but I doubt Pitts will get rid of him during the season since McDonald is injury prone. Maybe free to see if we can get him, though, since his contract is up. The U says at least Garrett was still clapping. Yeah, I do want to get into the trade potential here in a moment, and I will do that in a moment. But first, everybody hit the share button. Eric Sharp says, got to study for an exam. See you tomorrow, Ari and gang. Later, Eric. Good luck on your exam. Also, you should have brought that up at the top, Eric. Perhaps we can help you study for your exam. This could be like multifaceted. We could talk Cowboys while at the same time getting you ready for your exam. So what's the exam on? Also, let's see here. I know that Patrick Kahn says, Ari, want to do a whole podcast on this Romo for head coach thing? I do think we should do a podcast on that. The Cowboys Beat with Ari Temkin and Patrick Kahn coming out this Friday on why I want to blow my brains out every time that somebody brings up Romo as head coach. And then Dakota Stiegel says, can we stop talking about Romo and Dez? No, Dakota, we cannot. We cannot stop talking about Dez and Tony Romo. We must continue to talk about why Tony Romo would be the best head coach for the Cowboys, and why Dez Bryant would be the best number one wide receiver or receivers coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Timothy Tarvin says, should have been D. Ware as DC, Tony as head coach, or OC, Jason Witten as tight ends coach and OC. Great point. Wait a second. No, you know who my DC is for that team? Jay Ratliff. That's right. That's right, because he will fight people on his team or otherwise. And he goes back to Jay from Jeremiah, by the way, too. So I've got Jay Ratliff, the guy formerly known as Jay Ratliff, then Jeremiah Ratliff. Now the guy formerly known as Jeremiah Ratliff is Jay Ratliff, and he's the defensive coordinator for this team. DeMarcus Ware is too soft-spoken. He can be my defensive line coach. Secondary coach is definitely Dion, obviously, since we know how good of a coach he would be. Trying to think here, just off the top of my head, Sean Lee would be a good linebackers coach. Like, that's not even a joke. That's legit. So he'd be my linebackers coach. Offensive line coach would have to be Doug Free. And my quarterbacks coach, obviously, Tony Romo. Offensive coordinator, Tony Romo. Wide receivers coach would be Dez Bryant. He'd be the co-offensive coordinator. That way Tony and Dez can fight before every play call. And running backs coach can still be Gary Brown. We'll stick with Gary Brown for the running backs coach. Chris Bennett says Troy Aikman is head coach, Charles Haley is DC, Romo is offensive coordinator. Stevie Mack, Garrett claps for the Dodgers. They lose the World Series. I mean, that's true. Garrett shows up, and all of a sudden they lose. Not saying the series was decided before Garrett showed up, but, man, looks like cause and effect. Garrett shows up, team loses. Neil Favre says Emmett for running backs coach. Emmett? You mean the former Arizona Cardinals player, Emmett Smith? Gary Brown, thanks. I also think it's kind of funny if it was all former players, but Gary Brown stayed in. Matt S. on YouTube says Murray is running backs coach. Ty Shelton says the only thing we need from Romo is his football mind and eyes to download into Dak. True. Is that possible? Can we do that? Can we download the software from Romo and put it into Dak? Is that something we can do? Armando Olvera just says fire Ginger. All right. Alex Hernandez says Romo would be a good WB coach or OC. He knows just about every defensive scheme in the NFL. Yeah. Jeffrey Vogel wants to know about trade offers. We'll get into that in a second. Greg Zuniga in the house. What's up, everybody? Let me just share this. And if you wouldn't mind, do the same thing, please. Share this. That would be very helpful, and I would really appreciate if you did that. That'd be very nice and thoughtful if you did that. Neil Favre says Murray was an Eagle. Yuck. Yeah, Murray's out. That's right. He played for the Eagles. He's out. Kerry Teagle says Nussmeier attended his son's high school football game Friday, but he's only the tight ends coach, so no one cares. Kerry, first of all, if Nussmeier was at the World Series, he wouldn't have been shown on camera. But like Jason Garrett, it would have been fine if he went to his son's high school football game. There would have been no issues with it. Like, my issue is that he put himself in the middle of the crossfire of the media, and he didn't have to. Did he really want to go to a World Series game that badly, or did he just really not care that much about the perception of it? Because I'm just saying it just looks completely tone deaf for a season that is, way more in doubt than, you're 3-4. Your team is underperforming relative to expectations. You basically had this aura of, I know what I'm doing, and have the entire time you've been the head coach. And yet here you are going to Los Angeles to catch a baseball game when this team is 3-4 and drastically underperforming relative to expectations. It looks tone deaf. That's what I have with it. Not that my expectation is that he won't leave his basement and he's got to be constantly looking at film. It's just how tone deaf being there makes you look. It looks bad. Go anywhere else. Just don't go somewhere that puts you as a public figure back in the public light to make you look bad. Matt S. says, how's our playoff chances looking? That's on YouTube. I would say worse now because, Jason Garrett's out gallivanting around town. Around Los Angeles. Again, do I think it means he's not working as hard as he should be working? No. Kerry Teagle says, I was joking. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, no. And it wasn't meant to be like a shot at you, like, hey, don't, because Doug Nussmeier is off, at his son's high school football game. Like, I got exactly what you're saying, Kerry. And I guess, again, I know a lot of people are diminishing this, and I understand that. I get it, because that's kind of my initial thought, too, is like, who cares, right? It doesn't mean he's got to be working endlessly, but it just seems so tone deaf. And it's like, here's the feeling, right? Cowboys fans have a feeling of desperation now. Dakota Stiegel says, are you sick, Ari? I don't think so. Maybe. Cowboys fans right now are feeling have this feeling of desperation. Time is now. Let's go. It's desperate. Don't wait around. Let's go. They've got to string together wins to win football games here. That's what's important. And that's the perspective of fans. But the Cowboys also did that this week when they made the trade, or last week when they made the trade for Amari Cooper. The trade for Amari Cooper illustrates a level of desperation. We want to win. We think we can win now. We're going to do that. And then your coach during the bye week goes to catch a Dodgers World Series game. That doesn't notate desperation. So it's one thing for the fans to feel desperation. It's another thing for them, the organization, to acknowledge that desperation by making a midseason trade, which is not something teams traditionally do in football. So you've got sort of the fans acting desperate. You've got the Cowboys acting desperate. And you have Jason Garrett out at a World Series game. It didn't look good. The optics of it don't look good. The optics of the Cowboys making a desperate move and then Jason Garrett going after the desperate move and being on TV, catching a Cowboys game, doesn't look good. The optics. Cecilia Hall says, whatever, he's getting a lot of adverse attention, not attending to things in Dallas. True. Tony Enriquez says, maybe he's trying to get attention. That doesn't sound very Jason Garrett-esque. But I guess why, pray tell, then, would he be trying to get that attention? Chris Bennett is going all in on potential coaching on this staff, by the way. Chad Hutchinson, OC, Anthony Wright, quarterbacks coach, Quincy Carter, assistant head coach. Chris, you stop it taking us down memory lane of horribly inept quarterbacks, okay? The Cowboys could be on that path again right now. So it's not as funny. Stevie Mack says, I agree. If the World Series game was in Texas, then that's fine. But he flew to L.A., which he was probably there for a few days, I'd imagine. I mean, maybe. But even then, it's just like, just don't put yourself in position to be, like, I don't care what you do. You don't have to be working nonstop. I get that. Nobody is. Just don't put yourself in position to be having pictures taken of you while you're out doing whatever it is you're doing. Literally do anything anywhere. Just don't get pictures taken of you doing it or be in such a public space. Like, it's one thing to go on a vacation and then you're not really putting yourself in position to have pictures taken of you on vacation, but you went to the damn World Series. Like, I know baseball ratings are down, but my God, they're going to show you on television. That's my only feeling on it. Again, you know, I hated when they killed Romo for this thing with Cabo. But I think, one, I get where fans come from when they do, right? Like, I totally get why fans are upset about that. Whether or not it's legitimate is sort of inconsequential. I get why fans are upset by that. And, you know, I think given the outcome of the game, the playoff game that I'm referring to, you know, the optics didn't look great. And look, if Jason Garrett and the Cowboys go out next Monday night and win, then maybe that sort of nullifies all of the bad feelings that everybody had because they saw him at a World Series game. I just think, you know, first of all, there's more, like, the circumstance is completely different for multiple reasons. But one, again, I think when you have a fan base that feels desperate and then an organization that notates it feels desperate, and then you go do this, which sort of reeks the opposite of it, it doesn't look good. Not at all. All right, let's see. Chris Bennett says, Craig Way called the Oklahoma State game Saturday, took a red eye, and was in L.A. for the World Series yesterday, and was in Austin today at Tom Herman's presser this morning. Craig Way is ridiculous. He calls as many Texas games as he can. I mean, you can't really compare Craig Ways, who's the play-by-play man for Texas. You can't really compare his sort of omnipresence to anybody else because his travel is, like, ridiculous. Jay Navarro says, what's up, Ari? What's up, Jay Navarro? How are you? Roy Cash says, you saying he go on vacation, the man can go anywhere he want to. He's got a life, can go anywhere you want, leave him alone. Roy says, you're saying he can go on vacation. what are you saying? Like, what I'm saying is he can do whatever he wants to do, of course. Whether he's criticized for doing whatever it is he wants to do is like that. Like we're allowed to criticize a man for doing whatever it is that they want to do. But to be so unaware, to put yourself in position to be like people are going to see what a World Series game, it just seems so tone deaf to the current situation. That's all I'm saying. He can do whatever he wants to do, but he can also then put himself in position to be criticized for doing whatever it is he wants to do. You couple that with the fact that 90% of Cowboys fans want him gone, that the organization showed last week that there is a aura of desperation, and you've got a really, really bad situation optically. I'll say it like this. Jason Garrett might feel like his job is safe. It's not. So, and I don't think going to the game or not going to the game changes that. I'm just simply saying going to the game gives off this aura like he feels like his job is secure. And it's not, because guys who think their jobs are secure go to Dodgers World Series games in Los Angeles during bye weeks. Guys that think that they could be losing their job don't do those kinds of things. Stevie Mack says, remember when everyone was begging Romo to dump Jessica Simpson because we lost when they started dating? LOL. Well, wasn't that like Bill Parcells had his famous like rules of being a quarterback, and one of them was to not be like a famous quarterback, like it was not to be famous, and Romo broke that with Jessica Simpson. Joey Casanova says Garrett has relaxed enough. His head coaching record reflects that. And that's like what Joey Casanova is saying is why it's bad. Not to say that it's true, because I believe Jason Garrett is a hardworking man. I believe he works ridiculously hard in order to get his team ready to play. I wouldn't criticize him for not working hard enough. But when you have a fan base that's really fed up with you, like you're going to see him at the game and you're going to be pissed off because they want him gone. They're 3-4. This team just traded a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. It's like, I don't care what you're doing on your off day. I know you put in a lot of work, but I don't want to see you at a World Series game. That's it. That's it. Chris Bennett says, will your allergies be cleared up in time for the show tonight with you, TJ, and the albino? Holy crap, I cannot wait to tell the albino that. That's amazing, and now I think we have a show name. It's called The Show Tonight with TJ, me, and the albino. Boom. Thank you, Chris Bennett. Jonathan Gaffner says, did y'all see Hugh Jackson just got fired? I did. Hugh Jackson fired as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. A shocking turn of events if, I don't know, if you don't like winning or haven't watched, I guess. Maybe the shocker was that they didn't fire him before the season, despite the fact that he had won one game in 2 seasons. Like, if you don't fire him before the season, then, like, you might as well just wait for the whole season to play itself out, yeah? Spike Scott says, I agree 100%. What other coach that's 3-4 in a bye week would go do something so public? Do you think Belichick would be seen like this? No way. For a Yale graduate that wasn't very smart, I think he should join Jackson on permanent vacation. Princeton. He didn't go to he didn't go to Yale. He went to a good school, not as good as Yale. Princeton's I don't know. It's good. It's not that good. Stevie Mack says, Ari, for front office position, you do not want that. At least not if you're rooting for the Cowboys. Chris Bennett and Erica Shaney reminded me that Todd Haley was also fired, which actually might have been the reason why he got fired, Hugh Jackson, because he brought in Todd Haley, and they viewed that, Jimmy Haslam viewed that as being a reason. I don't really know. Who knows what Jimmy Haslam's feeling or thinking? They fire and hire bad coaches every few years in Cleveland. They look to be on the right track, but then again, that's only because they've won considerably more games this year than they've won in the previous 2 seasons. How many games have the Browns won this year so far? More than 1. That's great. It's a great season for them, and they're going to find the right coach next. I would imagine that. The only reason why I think this is somewhat relevant to us in this discussion here about the Cowboys, is like, I'm a fan of Lincoln Riley. I watch Oklahoma football on Saturdays, and I'm like, I'd like to see the Cowboys have that kind of an offense. So the only reason why it's like, oh, this is kind of concerning is if the Browns decide to hire Lincoln Riley before the Cowboys have the chance to. All right, here's the other topic I wanted to get into today, and that is what a lot of people have been talking about. The trade deadline is here or nearly here. So the question is, should the Cowboys make another move? And I know a lot of people are want a tight end. So thumbs up if you think, yes, they need to make another move, bring another tight end. Heart emoji if you think, yes, but another position, make a move in another position. Or the laughing emoji if you think the answer is no. To cut to the chase, no, I don't think the Cowboys should make another move. First of all, they just don't have the draft capital to be wheeling and dealing at this point. And I don't think the tight end position is that important right now for them to be trading future draft considerations for a guy like Cameron Brate or Jared Cook or literally anybody else. Perhaps we see Dalton Schultz emerge. Perhaps we see Rico Gathers emerge. I don't really care. You've already traded away a first-round pick. You therefore do not have any additional draft capital to be spending on more premium positions that you don't exactly need, like tight end. Plus, I like what Jeff Swaim has done. Now I know he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, the next month at least, perhaps two. But I just, at this point, do not think there's anybody out there at the tight end position that, like, yeah, I'd trade a third-round pick for Cameron Brate. I wouldn't. I don't know that I'd trade a fifth-round pick for Cameron Brate, but I also don't know that Tampa Bay would be willing to give him up for a fifth-round pick. Lauro Trevino says, if, quote, I'm sick of seeing football, end quote, Patrick Creighton ran his route correctly, Cabo would not have been an issue. It's true. It's true, but also, like, it's amazing that I know we've talked about it, the Cabo trip, and the Cowboys losing to the Giants in the postseason, but it's just funny. And that's very true, right? Like, all Patrick Creighton had to do was continue running the route, catch the ball, and then perhaps we wouldn't be complaining about Tony Romo missing a game, and then he wouldn't have his famous quote about, if this is the worst thing that ever happened to me, I've lived a pretty good life. But, yeah, again, I could we sit here and talk about circumstances in which the Cowboys should go out and get this guy or trade for that guy? Like, I understand that. And I'm not... Cody Arnold says, sign Fleener, he can block and catch, one-year deal. So Kobe Fleener's available through free agency. So Cody, don't you think there's a reason why Kobe Fleener's available in free agency? Patrick Kahn says he'll miss 4 games in 18 days they have on the horizon. Stevie Mack says, I wonder what Green Bay would want for Clinton Dix. He's leaving them after the season anyways. So then that begs the next question. So if he's a free agent after this season, and so, I mean, what would you give up? So, I mean, Green Bay thinks it's a playoff team, right? So, I mean, it's not like they're just going to be unloading Clinton Dix for anything. He was a former first-round pick. So, like, and he's still pretty good. So what's it going to take? I'm just not at a point right now where, like, I already gave up a first-round pick. So I'm not trading away a second-round pick. I'm not trading away a third-round pick. I'm not trading, especially for rental, because that's what it ends up being. There's no advantage to getting him now and making a trade to get him now in Clinton Dix than trying to go sign him in the offseason of free agency. Barry Griffith says, great point, Ari. No need to worry about tight end. We need to figure out the situation with Dak or the offensive coaching staff. That's absolutely right. Like, they need to figure out how to get Amari Cooper mixed into what they're doing right now. I don't need them to trade away another draft pick in order to get a tight end that they're then going to have to work into the offense. You know, I would rather them work some offense without a tight end. Like, how about 10 personnel for a change, you know? Where you've got one running back and a bunch of wide receivers, especially now that they've got depth at the wide receiver position. Perhaps we now see more 10 personnel. But again, Jason Garrett doesn't really evolve as a head coach, so, you know, we don't really see it. So he's regardless of the tight ends they have, whether it's Dalton Schultz or James Hanna or John Phillips or whatever it is, they're going to figure out a way to get him on the field, because anytime you can get Blake Jarwin out there for 40 snaps, you got to do it. Michael Goodburn says go for Jimmy Graham next year. He wants to play for every NFC team in the league. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't worked out for Jimmy Graham in Seattle or in Green Bay, but certainly it'll work out here in Dallas. Brian Walker says Landon Collins would give a 4th-round pick for him. Sure, I would too. I would definitely give a 4th-round pick for him. I definitely would have given a 5th-round pick for Damon Harrison as well. I don't know if the Giants would be giving up Landon Collins for a 4th-round pick, but I would definitely do that. I would get 1st-round talent for a 4th or 5th-round pick. Hell yeah, I would. Then I'm making a trade. But as far as like trades that would seem to be fair for both sides, I just don't know that there's anyone out there that I would take, especially because I'm just not giving up draft capital at this point. All right, on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page, Mike Wellman says, as long as we're trying to bring everyone back, grab Witten out of the booth for the rest of the year. True. Wouldn't that be something? Man, I think Jason Garrett retired because he didn't think, I think Jason Witten retired because he didn't think this team had any chance to win anything this season. I think he was hanging on for dear life at the end of his career because he felt like he didn't want to leave and then have that team, reap the benefits of everything he had done. And I think he surveyed the situation with this team this year and thought, no, not going to win. No chance. What else, everybody? A few more minutes here to be answering questions. Make sure to hit the share button if you have not yet already. Lauro Trevino says, you're correct on the trades. The only thing I would trade for would be a quarterback in a different world. Wish we could trade for Baker, but that's not happening. So, yes, let's see what happens with Garrett. If we get a new coach, the Dak issue will resolve itself. Well, perhaps. Look, I think in the hierarchy of issues along this offense, number 1 is coaching and play calling. Number 2 is quarterback. Do I think another coaching staff would make Dak Prescott a better player? Yes. Do I think you pay that guy $100 million? No. Look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a really good example of this. The Seattle Seahawks have a horrible offensive line. Horrible. They have no running game. They have a horrible offensive line and no running game. They also have major question marks at receiver, right? They don't have any great receivers. They've got nothing around Russell Wilson. And yet, what are the Seahawks doing? What's their record? That is a $100 million quarterback. Sometimes a quarterback has to lift up everybody else around them. Now, look, the obvious quip to that is, well, Russell Wilson wasn't always like that, right? He's developed into that. He's developed over the course of time, and I agree with that. So, yes, I think it is incomplete to basically say, well, Russell Wilson can do all these things and lift up his franchise. It doesn't need excuses, and Dak Prescott doesn't. But it's only year 3. But the issue is the clock is ticking, and the Cowboys don't have 6 or 7 years in order to make a decision or a deliberation on him. They've got to make that decision really soon for the future of their franchise. Diana Lopez says, sorry I'm late. What did I miss? Everything, Diana. Anybody want to catch up, Diana, on what she missed for the show today? But thank you, Diana, for coming. Better late than never. Oh, Patrick Kahn says, just Jason Garrett World Series talk. That's true. That's all you missed. You missed the head coach of the 3-4 Dallas Cowboys going to LA to catch a World Series game while the rest of his team worked. I do this a lot, I feel like. I don't know what it says, but I feel like it makes sense in my mind, and then I do it, and then it's and I feel like I do that a lot. Not quite like Mike Gundy, who made a fart noise when talking about Twitter and people who use Twitter. I believe was the quote. Make fart noises with mouth. I'm a head coach of Oklahoma State football. Porky Zapata says, are we going for a tight end in the trade? Need Cook. Well, Rocky, that's what I was just arguing they didn't need, only because I'm not giving up the draft capital that's available in order to do that. I'd rather go with the guys they have, and live with the results. But I just don't think there's any tight end out there that jumps off the page at you that immediately comes in and changes the landscape of this offense. So I mean, in light of that, I'm not giving up a second or a third or even a 4th round pick in order to do that. Brian Walker says, do you think we still get Demaryius Thomas from Denver? Perhaps. I'm shocked that nobody's pulled the trigger on a trade for him. Maybe John Elway is greatly overvaluing what he could get for him. Maybe that's the issue there. Maybe. But I would rather have Amari Cooper than Demaryius Thomas. I just want nobody to misunderstand that. Amari Cooper is a considerably better player at a considerably younger age. Like, there's no question you'd rather have Amari Cooper than Demaryius Thomas. The question now becomes, for what? What's the price? And my guess is the price was too stiff. Otherwise, the Cowboys would have probably looked into that. Again, considering that I'm bringing Demaryius Thomas as a rental, I'm not giving up anything more than a 5th-round pick for Demaryius Thomas. So if the Broncos were like, yeah, we'll take a 3rd or a 2nd, there's no team that's going to say yes to that because he's going to get cut after this season because that contract that he's going to earn next year at $17 million is not tenable. So either the Broncos are going to cut him and then he's going to sign elsewhere, or the team that trades for him is going to cut him and try to restructure that contract. But again, I did the move again. But again, so I don't know. Perhaps the reason he hasn't been moved or dealt yet is because of that. Curtis Harris says Amari Cooper is better than Thomas. I say don't get him. Agreed. Dinah Lopez says thank you, Ty, because Ty Shelton explained that the recap of the show, no to Romo for head coach, Marion Barber for running backs coach, Jason Garrett clapping at some baseball game, and Ari making good points as usual. That's a pretty good show recap, buddy. I appreciate you saying that. You're the man. Tony Enriquez says 7-9 season. Shake my head. So tired of watching us lose. Yeah. Again, I'll continue to say this. I think Jason Garrett loses his job regardless. They lose this season. Sorry. They don't make the playoffs this season. Jason Garrett's going to lose his job. I think that. I think there's also a circumstance, as hard as this is or might be to believe, that Jason Garrett could lose his job even if they make the playoffs. Again, it's probably harder to believe, but certainly is a reality. But I don't think he keeps his job if they miss the playoffs. So that's, I guess, the good news if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Showtime every single day at 12 o'clock Central right here on Phantom. Phantom puts you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. Of course, you can always catch me on the Dallas Cowboys pre- and post-game show with Jesse Holly. It was a weird week being off, but we're back at it next week. Next Monday night, a week from tonight, will be the next Cowboys game. So a long wait after the bye week, but plenty of time to get ready for the Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. Again, the pregame show next Monday night should be a lot of fun. Thank you, a hearty thank you to all these Showtimers. That is the folks that stream this show and are part of this discussion each and every day. I'm talking about you, Keith Stone, and Cody Arnold, and Curtis Harris, and Diana Lopez, and Ty Shelton, and Brian Walker, and Patrick Kahn, and Chris Bennett, and Michael Goodburn, and Stevie Mack on YouTube, and Eric Koshaney, and Neil Favre, and Dakota Stiegel, and Jay Navarro, and Tony Enriquez, and Keith Batchelor, and Curtis Starks, and Lauro Trevino, and Manuel Padron, and many others. So thank you all for being a part of the show, for being the show. I'll be back at it tomorrow, so make sure to be a part of this show each and every day. Tomorrow at noon o'clock, 12 Central. But for now, I am out, everybody. Peace.